Welcome to Into the 99, where we have 99 cards because Commander's number one, and I'm one of your hosts, Brian.
I'm another one of your hosts, Zach.
And I'm Daniel.
And today we're going to be doing a mini episode on Lithoform Engine and a few other cards that were spoiled today. Today's date would be Monday, September 7th.
Yeah, there was just the spoilers. There's no way to not talk about them. They're pretty insane. They're all three going to be artifacts that we're going to quickly touch on, and they're nuts. I'll let Zach take this first one away.
So the first one we're going to talk about is, it's not one of the mythics. It's one of the rares I'm actually really excited about. We'll touch on it quickly and then move on to the bigger ones. The first one is Skycleave Relic. It's a 3-drop artifact with kicker 3. It has indestructible. And when Skycleave Relic enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create 2 tap tokens that are copies of Skycleave Relic. You can tap them to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool.
First off, wow. Like, what a phenomenal card that is going to be. Just insane. Like, the ability to kick it late game and have it produce 3 mana as opposed to the 1. Or early game still 1 mana producing indestructible artifact is great.
Yeah, the inclusion of kicker is awesome, but the fact that it's indestructible is really what blows my mind. Having a 3-drop, it's kind of what you want to see in a 3-drop artifact, or at least what's expected, being able to tap for any color. So it already feels a lot like Darksteel Ingot, which, we typically run a lot in Commander to begin with, but having the kicker to make 2 copies is, God, that's just so good.
And as you guys saw on our stream there, me dropping an Elish Norm, which is a 7-drop on turn 3, like I would be able to drop this turn 3 or turn 4 and be able to have it kicked and produce some 3 mana of any color.
This is phenomenal ramp, and this is also a really good extra inclusion for multicolored decks that don't have that budget for an insane land base. This is going to be a staple for them. They're going to need stuff like this because the ability to make something for 6 mana, making 3 different any color taps indestructible, just a great card overall. Like I said on last week's episode, nothing seems super overwhelming so far, but there's so many that I'm so excited for. It's not just rares and mythics, it's not just legendaries. There's stuff for everyone in this set.
What I really like about this card specifically is the fact that it makes 2 token copies. We've seen so many things in the last, I'd say 2 years of Commander that really care about, token copies of things. We can populate these things. We can.
Oh yeah, we'll doubling season it. Oh, that's nuts.
Brutaclad,
I didn't even think about Brutaclad, but that would be really good.
I mean, granted, they all come into tapped, but still, they come into play?
Only yeah, so it enters the battlefield. If it's kicked, it creates 2 tapped ones. It itself will come in untapped. Sorry. So you're going to get 1 of them to go on the first turn, 2 on the 3 total. That's so good.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this card. When I saw it this morning, I was just like, man. I mean, granted, there's a lot. The other 2 cards we're about to talk about are also nuts, but this card, I just was so pumped about.
It's pretty nuts. I really like it. It's probably one of the rares that I'm more excited in the set because a lot of these, the next one we talk about has a place only in a specific kind of deck. This though has a home in everything. Monocolor's not going to enjoy it as much, but if you're in a color that needs it, like white for instance, it's a great card for white decks.
Well, and 2, about it with monocolor decks, there are certain monocolor decks that are going to care more, or not necessarily monocolor, but commanders and monocolors that care about artifacts so much.
Yep.
That the kicker is just going to be, getting 2 more artifacts for 6 mana is going to be worth it.
Oh, yeah. Well, a 6 mana, we generally will dump 5 mana into, what's the Gilded Lotus? We'll dump 5 mana into Gilded Lotus and we'll be all happy about it, right? This is 3 separate instances instead of just that tap for 3. It's very, very good. And again, it has that utility of early game. If you really need it, you don't have to invest so much. I really like a lot of the variety in this set so far, with the ability that there's early game and late game potential. You're not locked into one or the other, as you generally are in most of your cards.
Yeah, that's something I can definitely agree with you about. Having kicker on these cards, I think is great in general. It makes the set more viable, both late game and early game, but also what we've seen with the pathway lands too.
Yeah.
just having the option whether I'm going to use this spell because I need it, or no, I need this spell to be a land is just, I think it's going to do wonders for our format.
I'm very excited for it overall in general.
I think it's that fit into like a lot of decks, like especially any artifact decks can really profit and get more ramp out of it.
Absolutely. The next one is Forsaken Monument. This is for colorless decks, and colorless decks don't really get a lot of love. So it's a pretty cool card for that. For a lot of Eldrazi Travel's going to want this. Zach has a deck that's going to run this, so I'll let Zach actually take this one as well here.
Oh, I feel so honored. Forsaken Monument is a 5-cost legendary artifact. It reads colorless creatures you control get +2/+2. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless mana, so showing the star mana, you add an additional star mana or colors, however you want to refer to it. And whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life.
Eldrazi's don't need any more power. They're already big enough.
But my Karn Silver Golem deck, like,
well, I guess, yeah. Any artifacts. Yeah, that's something really good, actually.
Well, yeah, artifact commanders in general, like, you really don't get to see too much of it, but, like, this is really, it's a permanent, so if you're tapping wastes, you're tapping wastes for 2, which is such a good bonus in those decks.
It's nice, too, because, like, you know, we are on Zendikar, and we're obviously not seeing Eldrazi, but this is like it's almost feels like a nod, you know, like, hey, we're not dealing with Eldrazi, but hey, remember Eldrazi were on this plane?
Well, art-wise, that actually does look like the burned-out husk of Ulamog.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, it's pretty nuts.
It reminds me a lot of, like, when I saw El Hamaret's archive spoiled, like, there's just, or even, like, the Immortal Sun, there's just so much stuff, like, stapled on this card. At any point in time, like, it feels, like, you get to one line of text, it's like, oh, that seems worth it. Then you get to the second line of text, like, oh, that seems worth it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you're like, this is cool.
They stapled so much value. Like, I honestly didn't even realize until I just read it that you got 2 life for casting a color spell.
Yeah, I just saw that this time too.
Well,
yeah, I've only read the first 2 things.
That's what we were talking about last with that White Angel, is that any 2 of these 3 would be great abilities. Honestly, even whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, add an additional colorless would be a great ability.
Yeah, I still think that'd be a mythic, even without the additional stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, like mana doubling is always a cool thing to get, and like you said, so many decks like Brutaclad, like we were talking about, or I run a Memnarch deck, so there's a lot of colorless in there. So yeah, like just the ability to like pump your creatures up, you gain your life. Like it's just an all around great card for any deck that is colorless or artifact themed deck.
Like, I like the fact that it's legendary too, so you can't, you know, I'm air quoting here, abuse it, but it's also an artifact, which means there are definitely like a billion ways that you can abuse this, and the legendary clause mean nothing. So yep. I'm really excited to like try to break this card in the most like jankiest way possible.
I like that.
Yeah.
And the final card spoiled today is just it's actually the reason we're recording an episode so early in the week, because I saw this and I was like, well, this is nonsense. There's in my opinion, there's no reason to not run this in any deck. No matter what kind of deck you're playing, it can run something like this. This is crazy. So
Daniel texted me or messaged me. I was saying that. So Wizards has finally printed their most powerful card.
Yeah, my opinion is this actually might be the strongest card they've ever printed. So I don't know if other people are going to agree with that, but my stipulation for that is, again, it's colorless and it can go in any deck solely on its color. It's legendary artifact, so it can be fetched out very easily, like Sisay, for instance. Sisay Shrine deck can fetch this out really, really easy. It's only it's very, very good, and we'll go over it. It has 3 abilities, and the fact that the 3 abilities sit on the same card is just bananas, and they get stronger and stronger each one. So I'll start the first one. It's 2 and a tap, copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Phenomenal.
So it's a Strionic Resonator.
Phenomenal. You can copy Narset triggers, like we know is important. You can copy your Golos trigger, Brian.
Yep. Hence why, I have it in my curse deck for that.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. Activated or triggered abilities is just going to be, in general, a very, very strong utility. There's so many decks that care about, like landfall triggers, for instance, right? The ability to copy an important one. You can copy a Craterhoof Behemoth trigger for 2.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
You can copy Eldrazi triggers.
Yeah. Oh, Annihilator is triggered, Brian. And Brian is triggered by Annihilator.
Yeah. Yeah.
For 3, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Nuts. Just a bananas card. So if you have a counter spell...
there's another way for you to have infinite turns.
Well, you're in a counter spell battle with someone. You're not holding that extra counter spell, but you have the colorless mana. All of these are colorless abilities, by the way, which is just crazy. So, again, yes, my Calamax deck, or any copy spell deck, like a Kess kind of deck, Storm-style decks, are really going to care about abilities like this. 3 mana to copy is nothing. There's no reason to not run it in decks that are spell-intensive. For 3 mana, you copy your repeated reverberation. The next time you cast, you're copying it 4 times if you don't have other copy spells like Swarm Intelligence or Twinning Staff or whatever other copy nonsense you have on the board. And that's, again, phenomenal. This card with those 2 abilities stapled on, Mythic level card, extremely strong card, 4 mana with a 2 and a 3. Great card. But then they just took it further. They can't leave well enough alone. And I'll let Brian read the last ability here.
So it is tap 4 colorless and copy target permanent spell you control.
That's nuts.
So that's everything. Everything that you can cast, you can copy with this card.
Well,
so I want to jump in.
That's land, I guess.
We got so excited to read what the abilities were, we forgot to actually read the name of the card and what its CMC was.
That's very true.
So this is Lithoform Engine. It's a 4-cost legendary artifact, and what's really neat about this is, you guys know, I'm really big about the story and all that, like you guys are too. But this is also one that they've actually stapled at the bottom that this is story spotlight. So this card was going to be powerful to begin with.
Ooh, I didn't even see that on the card.
Yeah, it's right at the very bottom.
MTGstory.com.
Yeah. You already knew right off the bat that it was going to be powerful, but I just didn't, this level of absurdity.
Well, anything with electricity coming out of it, we know it's going to have some power.
This card is so strong that I actually went to look if it was real. I thought this must be a joke.
Man, so Icy Manipulator, I guess, just went through puberty is what happened. Oh god, this is ridiculous.
Well, let's talk first and foremost. This is a very easy card to break. If you're copying target activated or triggered ability, Voltaic Key is a activated ability, so you'll have 2 untaps. If you can generate your mana, you can really, really tap and untap this infinitely, very, very easy, because that's an activated ability. There's so many broken interactions with it, but just the ability to, I guess, really do nonsensical things. A really good example is Chulane cares about putting permanents in really, really fast. So you're casting creatures. Generally, they'll have an ETB, but you want the draw and you want the ability to bounce it. So, like we said, with Craterhoof, for instance, you're able to pay 4, copy another Craterhoof. If you can untap it, copy the Craterhoof triggered ability. But for permanents that matter, so things like Doubling Season, for instance, having a second Doubling Season on the field is bananas. For anyone who's ever had a token deck across the table and seen what a Doubling Season is, you don't want a second one on the field, let alone a second of their Anointed Procession, their Parallel Lives. There's so many. This making a second Tender Shoot Dryad is crazy.
I think I'd be making double spheres of safeties.
Yeah. Well, of anything that's important, Brian, 2 Smothering Tithes. Are you going to pay the 4?
The Heuristic Studies?
Oh. This is, like I said, just...
2 Cabal Coffers.
Oh, it has to be permanent spell, so you at least can't get land. You have to cast it. Land. Yeah, so that's because that's the first thing I thought. I was like, I'm just going to copy all of my good lands, for sure. But, that being said, you can copy, everything that, makes you good lands.
Yeah, I mean, I just the route of going, oh wait, does this, yeah, you could do, well, I guess you couldn't do Planeswalkers unless you got rid of the legendary rule.
So you could.
But there's a card that does. It's Mirror Gallery.
You could target the trigger of the Cabal Coffers.
Yep.
Oh, that is true.
So
I don't know if you guys have like really looked at the art, but I kind of like was zoomed in because I could tell it was a face. It looks like it's Nahiri's face actually on the engine.
It actually does. Now that I'm looking at it, that's pretty cool. Looks like Tiki Nahiri.
It makes sense with it being, you know, Lithoform
engine,
and Lithomancer. So I wonder if this was the item, or was part of the item that she was grabbing at the beginning of the video.
The copy becomes a token. This is, like I said, this is just insane. For the Tiny Bones deck I just played, sitting here copying like Sangromancers or Migrans, Liliana's Caress, any nonsense pieces like that. It's boundless of what this card can do and what its abilities are. I'm going to sit here and copy Panharmonicons.
So do we think this is going to be the next Paradox engine for the format?
I don't even know, but like I said, at this point, I cannot think of a single deck that one of these three abilities is not good for. I can't think of one card, especially, it all comes down to affordability. If this turns out to be a $50 card, then you're going to see it a lot less. But if this sits at like the $10 range, you're going to see this in a lot. There's no reason not to. There's no reason that people wouldn't be playing it.
It's crazy, too, because when you've looked at how Wizards has done things recently, I think the market has been much more flush with, standard standard sets. So, like, cards that start out expensive just don't end up seeing that. Like, Grim Tutor is a really good example where we saw it when it was first printed. It's super expensive now. When the second printing out in M21, it stayed kind of pricey for a second, but once packs started getting cracked, it plummeted in price. I think I got mine for like $10.
Grim Tutor has gone down a fair bit.
I could see this being something where, like, yeah, if you don't get it while it's being opened, I could definitely see it being expensive. But man, with so many people buying, collector boosters and just cracking packs in general, and how hard they're pushing standard and all that stuff, like, I want to say this for a while. So like, it's one of those, if you can get your hands on them, get your hands on them when you can.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, again, like I was saying, this set just seems worth cracking. The rares, mythics, uncommons, they all seem, I've said many times that I don't think much of it's oppressive. This isn't oppressive, but this is, in my opinion, like it's not a must include, but it's good in any deck.
You mentioned on our podcast that we recorded this weekend, or on our episode that we recorded this weekend, that the power creep wasn't really there. But are you going to change your stance on that?
No. I think that the power creep is there. I think that it's good power creep though right now. Like none of it's bad. None of it's like game breaking. Because this is the thing, Lithoform engine is not game breaking, right? It just enables people to do more with the deck style that they actually play. So if you're a deck that runs a lot of triggered abilities or stuff like that, like for instance, your Valduck, which is you get 3/1 elementals for each equipment on them in combat, you want the ability to copy that, obviously, right? So any deck that runs in those, any Calamex cast like copy spell ones, like I said, also is going to want to do that. And then some things just have like this isn't going to be a super competitive kind of deck staple, but like you're going to see it in a lot of decks that have like Yarok is going to want one of these for sure. Yarok is going to want to like double up on like important triggers like Fairy Artisans, just like a Panharmonicon, any of those kind of things. Helm of the Host is a triggered ability, so the ability to pay 2 and trigger an extra Helm of the Host. Like there's a ton of really, really cool interactions with this card. And again, it's not overtly powerful in the sense that it's going to break the format, but it just has so much potential across so many decks, and that's where my opinion is coming from.
I think the thing that'll kind of help temper a lot of like the like potential like of this card being broken, you got to think we're dealing with artifacts. Almost every color can deal with artifacts, to a degree. We're also looking at it as a legendary artifact, so you can't, there are ways to definitely get around the fact that it's the legendary, but you're typically only going to have one of these, and you got to think too, like it's it's 4 to cast. And then to use any of its abilities, you're looking at 6 mana, 7 mana, and 8 mana, which, Commander, that's not that unreasonable, but like, there are definitely ways to like, while this card is powerful, and I'm not trying to downsell it, just like being devil's advocate, there's still, how many times are you going to be able to?
Oh, there's answers to this for sure.
Yeah, like I'm excited and I want to jam it in so many different decks just because like it's another tool that we get to play with that's really cool, but like it's also I think gonna be kept in check. I don't think it's gonna be the boogeyman of our format, but I think it's gonna be a card that's gonna allow a lot of really neat interactions.
Oh, well, and that's just it. Like I said, this isn't going to be a competitive staple, but this is going to pop up in your play groups for sure. You're going to see a ton of people want to build and incorporate this. Like I already have the need for 100 of these cards.
One for every deck.
Oh,
300.
I really hope this does, find its way into competitive because like I never thought that Aetherflux Reservoir, stuff like that would see its way into CDH, and man, like it is a win con for a lot of different decks. Time, yeah. I would love to see this get there just to see, because like seeing how people can take stuff like this that we already know is powerful, because the two formats, want very different things, but I want to see how a format that's more competitive can break this card. I want to see those deck lists and those plays and those interactions.
Like I said, in my opinion, there is no major downside to this card. It's very worthwhile including in a lot of these decks.
Yeah, I'm excited. This set is shaping up to be another just really good standard set. Like, I feel like we've been getting spoiled lately with so many cool cards, and like Core 20 or M21, whatever you want to call it, I think gave us a lot of really cool tools and a lot of really good reprints. And then going into this set where we're getting even more stuff that just seems like overall good value, not just like specific like things that only work, but just value in general with cards that already exist. It's just, God, it's making me super excited to see what the rest or what the upcoming year is going to give us with all these sets that have just been announced.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really looking forward to it because like every card that I've seen so far is getting exciting. I'm really looking forward to that Viking set that's coming out later.
Kaldheim, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
definitely going to be having a Viking tribal deck if they allow me.
Definitely sure. I'm curious if we'll see. I don't know if we'll see Viking as a creature type, or if we'll see Barbarian as like the Viking, creature type.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think that's for another episode.
Yeah, that's all we wanted to touch on today, really quickly with those ones. Let us know what would you use for this Lithoform engine? What commander do you think it's going to be best in, and what would you copy?
Everything.
Yeah, and if you happen to be a competitive player, please give me all your big brain ideas. Like, I want to know what you guys are going to try to do to break this card.
So we can break this card.
That's going to be it for now. We're just going to end up wrapping it up here. Thank you so much for listening. Brian, tell them where they can find us.
So you can find us on all the major social media, such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We stream every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And after those games are done, we put them all onto our YouTube page, which you can find Into the 99 on the YouTube search. As well as if you enjoy our content and you would like to support us, you can find us on Patreon, Into the 99. And again, thank you to Lillian of the Vale, who is our first Patreon, and we look forward to everyone else that joins us. Thank you, and have a great day.
Bye, guys.
See ya.